So we recently posted a video of this police officer that was trying to subdue somebody in a parking lot. We showed a few different ways to take them down from a front headlock position, and we got a lot of questions on, well, what happens if you're the person on bottom? What happens if someone's holding you down, got you in a front headlock? Like, how can we look to escape and get out of that position? So here's a few options. When anytime someone throws on a front headlock, or even like a front body lock, right? You're gonna be carrying all their weight. And unless you're like twice this guy's size where you can just posture up, it's gonna be very difficult, especially if he's starting to kind of weigh into you a little bit. Even if he hasn't sprawled, this is not a very comfortable position to be in. So anytime this happens, I tend to kind of just drop down to my knee. And it sounds bad. Now, I will make one kind of side note real quick. If they slap on any sort of like front choke, then I have to immediately look to get hands on first. Even if it's like a front headlock choke, right? I still want to get hands on, but then I'm still gonna drop down to my knee. And the reason I'm gonna do this is ultimately I have a feeling that's where this guy's trying to take me. And then rather than me getting slammed down or taken down in any which way, I would rather hold on and then slowly kind of start working my way down into like a good base turtle position. At this point, because again, I do have grappling experience, so I recommend you train for some of this, but if he decides to just kind of cut and start working towards the back, then I can kind of use that as an opportunity to stop them, maybe get yeah, go ahead. Maybe, you know, stop them, kind of drag arm leg through, and I can end up on top or something. So like you have options if they hit the ground and then immediately be like, screw it, I'm just gonna pass. But ultimately, when you get down to this position and they're holding on, especially if they're inexperienced, they're probably still just gonna be kind of hanging out here and holding on to. So we have two options, and it's gonna depend on how their arms are. If we're talking like the headlock position, so one arm's covering behind my head, the other arm's behind my armpit, they're just kind of squeezing and holding on. The first thing I want to do is take my outside arm, I'm going to pull this elbow down as tight as I can and just secure it to my side. Now the more that I do this, is also going to kind of start shifting his weight out to the side a little bit. Now what I want to do with my head at this point is actually take my head, bring it in a little bit, which again, nothing's stopping my head from moving. I'm gonna bring my head back a little bit towards his chest, turn my head out so I'm looking the same way that this arm is. I'm gonna tuck my ear now to their chest nice and tight, just to kind of secure this position. At this point, I'm gonna take that same side leg and I'm gonna look to start kind of posting just so again, I have a good base. I'm now gonna take my opposite arm that I was using as a framing at this point and also to hold my base up, and I'm gonna bring it all the way across and grab the back of the tricep. Now at this point, I'm not just holding on, I'm pulling this arm more through. Now, I can't hang out in this position, so as soon as I make this transition, I now have to take this arm, I'm gonna start reaching for the far hip as I circle my feet around. And as I start kind of circling around, I'm pulling my head through, reaching all the way around, and I can secure that far hip while I have essentially like a good arm drag. So this is also kind of like a sneaky arm drag position here. At this point now, we've traded places. I can do whatever I need to do from here. I can abandon this arm. I'm in a position where now I have kind of like a back seatbelt grip at this point. This arm's trapped for him. Even if he pulls that arm through, right? He's not really in a good position to do anything. I can hold on from here. Again, similar to like the past video where we talked about the officer, I can get these wrist locks and start kind of wrist riding him a little bit to get him down to the ground. I can work damage if I need to work damage, and I can even slip in all sorts of different chokes if the opportunity presents itself, or I can use this as an opportunity to create distance, work back up to my feet. If it was a situation where I need to draw, I can easily draw from that position, so it gives you the opportunities to safely recover. So again, the moment we hit, I'm tucking that arm in, I'm posting, turning my head, switching the arm, cutting around all the way to the outside. Right away, again, I'm driving back into them, pressuring them down, and we go from there. Part two of this is what happens if they secure this body lock position. We're gonna do a very similar motion, however, I'm gonna do a little adjustment with my head. Instead of keeping my head down to their chest, I'm gonna take my head and I'm looking to tuck it to the outside like I'm looking up at the sky. At this point, same side that I'm looking, I wanna start posting that leg, and I'm gonna take my arm and start clearing this arm back. Now, even if this person's grabbing on nice and tight, I'm not necessarily like peeling this arm off. I'm looking as if I'm trying to elbow them in the back of the head. When I start doing this, my head is naturally gonna start kind of looking up, and I wanna make sure that I start looking towards their butt. And as I do this, I'm gonna take my outside or my inside leg now and literally just hip slide through. And as I put it all together, they're gonna post, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I always wanna make sure that I turn into their legs. I don't wanna turn towards the head. I wanna come up towards the legs so that, again, I can secure the position, and just like the previous spot, we can break them down, we can pop back up to our feet, whatever we wanna do. Now, the thing I want you to pay attention to with the posting, right? If he really tries to hold on, we're gonna go slow, and he doesn't let go, right? As I sit through, his face is just gonna eat the concrete. So even if this person's holding on strong, as long as I can do the right motions, meaning that I'm setting everything up the right way and I'm forcing him to post, if I do this at full speed, he's gonna be forced to post because otherwise he's gonna eat the ground. So at this point, again, once you get out, pop right back up. So all together, head looks to the outside, I'm gonna post, sit through, and we cut the angle and we go from there. So just understand, ultimately, anytime somebody's hanging on you, right, we'll just trade positions. If I get here, there's so many things that I can do up top, and ultimately, as we talked about in the previous video, there's a lot of takedowns. So in like Cash's perspective, would you rather me have a good grip on you and I slam you down to the ground, or would it rather be where you get a good grip? Exactly, you just come down to a good base like this, where again, if I'm intelligent enough in these positions and understand what's going on, I might just take this as an opportunity to quickly abandon and already take the pass, where an inexperienced person may just sit here and just squeeze, which now gives him the opportunity. So those are two options. Rep them out, practice them a little bit, give different levels of resistance, but yeah, two ways to escape a front headlock, body lock position. Stay safe.